Welcome everyone to the CoinRock Show. We have a very interesting guest coming up in about 30 minutes from now. Hope everyone's doing well. The bubbles are green. So of course, everyone's in a better mood than probably the last few weeks. It's been very choppy. Let's put this on the big screen and let's get going. So today's plan. Let me just put you guys up on this one here. Today's plan. We have. Where are we now? So let's share this in all the different groups. Flip the screen here, and we should be good to go. Good. Welcome everyone. So we have some green. Bitcoin at 105, $105,000. ETH at 2,600. XRP at 215. BNB 660. Solana at 160. Choppy range, but we're still in that choppy range, right? We haven't really seen any massive any real leg up, like the next leg up that everyone's waiting for. But let's not complain on a green day. Today we have some news. We're going to talk about some news, some news in the market, and in about 25 minutes we have our guest joining. Today we're going to be talking. So our guest is deep into media, crypto media, NFTs in the last cycle, also an entrepreneur. So it'll be an interesting. All these conversations are interesting. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, just talking more about the state of crypto, yes, of course, but also the media, the evolution of the media in general. And talking to fellow entrepreneurs is always interesting because we all have different perspectives, but at the same time, anyone who's built companies has had to deal with a lot of everything, a lot of adversity, drama, bullshit, losing, and of course winning. Otherwise, you actually have to get wins as an entrepreneur if you want to survive. So very, very curious to see how our guest today has gone through all these stages as an entrepreneur too, but really specifically in the context of crypto and AI too, of course. I mean, it's funny seeing like the kind of these two worlds connect, right? Crypto, of course, and AI. To a lesser extent, NFTs, IP rights. I think IP is always, of course, going to be around. I think do NFTs make a comeback? I don't know. I mean, my view on NFTs is there is value in NFTs, but I don't think we'll see. I don't see anything close to the extreme euphoria we saw in the last cycle, where JPEGs were selling for literally millions of dollars. Maybe we might see that again, but that was extreme peak euphoria. Very different to actually owning like Bitcoin or any even solid alts. But it'll be interesting. I think that I talked about this about a year ago. I said that memes this cycle. So this cycle's memes are the previous cycle's NFTs. That's the euphoria we saw when it came to, especially last year, right? Remember, with all the celebrity memes and everything, celebrity coins, we've gone through that phase of mini euphoria. I'd say froth, a lot of froth, about 13 months ago, when you would see celebrity launches almost every day. So I said that on a pretty large base, like 50, 60,000 people on Twitter, X, Spaces at the time. My thesis was that the memes this cycle, kind of the froth that attracted, and I think memes will definitely have another run if and when I really firmly believe that retail will come back, because they always do whenever there's bullish price action. It only takes a few days or a few weeks of really bullish headlines and everyone to and their favorite celebrities to tweet again about crypto, and retail starts coming back. So I think that memes will run again, but I don't think we'll see NFTs run anywhere close to the amount of literal stupidity of last cycle. I mean, if you guys remember last cycle, people literally getting multi-million-dollar offers for their NFTs and proudly declining. Not even for some of the big names like the Bored Apes or the Punks, but even for more obscure collections, getting $1, $2, $3 million in ETH and rejecting that, and bragging on on Twitter about rejecting it. That is peak euphoria. If you ever see that again, just sell and go away, because you don't get that often. I mean, look, we saw that in 2020, 2021. We have not seen that since. It's been 5 years. It could be another 5 years until we see something insane like that. So whether it's NFTs or something else, I don't think NFTs will get the froth. Kind of going like through this NFT, but that's a conversation, I think, something worth discussing today. I'm very adamant about my view, but again, everyone has a different thesis, so we'll see if what our guest thinks about NFTs today. That being said, the market, welcome to everyone. We'll be on for about 20 minutes at most, 15 minutes from now. Then we have a guest coming up in 15 minutes. So the team should be good. We can push this out in different groups. And let's have a look here. Yes, we should be good. Let's yeah, so Johnny's going to be joining us in about 20 minutes. Let me push this in some of the private groups we have. And with that being said, let's have a look at some of the headlines. Let's have a look at some of the headlines here. Overall, busy days. It's very rare that, especially weekdays are usually never calm. It's always, but that's how I like it. I like action. I get bored when nothing's happening. So the teams know it. There's always things happening. Good things. So we had one of the projects, Cyclics, that successfully migrated from ETH to Solana. You guys know I'm very bullish on ETH, but when it comes to the gaming aspect and onboarding retail, Solana has done a much better job this cycle. So, that went well. That was about 3 days ago. We have a lot planned for Cyclics. So if you guys are, I know we have some OGs here on the stream. CYG is the ticker. You guys know too that I don't shill too much on these shows. I really want to keep them educational first. I really want this to be a space where you can come in and you can be a Bitcoin maximalist and enjoy it, and you can be a meme coin flipper and jeet every time you're up like 14 cents and a half, and you're welcome here. This is a safe space for all your investing or jeeting needs. So also we have, like I said, we have guests who are extremely pro Bitcoin. Always respect everyone's opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with everyone, but it's always interesting. I think that one thing that I've noticed also throughout life is going through being an entrepreneur for almost 20 years now, and having gone through everything that entrepreneurs go through, which is hope, loss, making it back, and hopefully you keep it. So going through that whole phase, completely outside of crypto, by the way. So this is in Web 2, digital businesses. And I've been very fortunate to meet extremely successful people, many 8 to 9 figure entrepreneurs, investors, a few billionaires too. And what's interesting is you notice that the most successful people or at least the people that I like to hang out with, are the most curious. They're the most curious people I know. They ask the most questions. The people who know everything are usually the least successful. So, it's very interesting. I some of the richest people I know, real wealth, right? We're not talking about guys who have like a watch and show it on Twitter just because they sold a meme for $18,000 and bought a new watch, right? I'm talking about like generational wealth, investors, people around me. Uh, those are the ones who ask the most questions, right? So there's some things that I have extreme levels of alpha, when it comes, for example, to e-commerce, when it comes to social media advertising. There's things that, I mean, so my businesses literally have access to some of the highest levels when it comes to social media advertising, paid advertising, the trends, some of the I'd say the ways to sell online. Like, we have pioneered some of these, like whether it's my own company starting, literally opening new ways of selling in some markets, or just people I know. So, I, I I'm not a good chef. I'm not a good I don't know, I'm not a good musician. But when it comes to paid advertising and monetizing online businesses, I'm I'm fucking great at that. That's what I've done. And so what's interesting is the wealthiest people, the most successful people in life, the people I know, ask questions, right? Some people I have friends who've sold their companies for 9 figures cash, and they're the ones who ask the most questions. And then, I meet like a an 18-year-old who wants to be an entrepreneur, and he knows everything, right? Knows everything better than everyone, never asks any questions, very stubborn. So it's very funny. So, that's why you see me doing these shows, right? Even with the guests, I rarely talk about like the success I've personally had, because I'm here asking questions and being curious, and I learn a lot during these shows too. Sometimes I learn about just new things, right? For example, we had a lot of like the Bitcoin layer 2. We had 2 shows about Bitcoin layer 2s, and to be honest, it's things are happening. There's so many things happening in Web3 and crypto that it's impossible to know everything, right? So for me, this show is very much an excuse for me to get very smart people on the show, ask them questions. Of course, you benefit because you get alpha from people who, many of them, don't do many shows. And for me, selfishly, I learn a lot just from doing these shows. But also, I'll tell you, I'll give you some alpha that I can't share on the show live. A lot of the conversations actually happen after we end the show, after we end the recording. So we're just hanging out, even either before the show or after the show, talking about everything and anything. And sometimes, actually, the I wish sometimes we could record the with consent, of course, the conversations that happen after we finish the recording and the live stream, because the alpha dropped, and the let's call it the industry secrets sometimes are things that you can't pay people enough money to have access to this. So, I try to bring you guys. So the team, I will say, our team brings these guests on. Shout out to the team. And then I try to just have interesting conversations with them. I hope that you learn as much as possible. You can, we post all the recordings. I think it's if you're in this industry and you want to make money and succeed, not just for the short term, but also to learn from how people think, how successful people think. I think everyone should watch these shows because you will learn something on every single show. I will say we have some episodes that are more interesting personally to me than others. I say this to the team sometimes. I'm personally more interested in some topics than others. And that's just how it is, right? I'd be lying if I say that, oh, every single show, is like 100 out of 100. But the reality is, or the truth is, I learn things on every single show, even if I don't agree with the the thesis that some of the guests have. I always learn something. It always gives me alpha and insights on how the industry is thinking, how people are thinking. So I think you guys should tune in for these shows. Selfishly, learn from this. You can't have these conversations unless if you're maybe you attend like conferences and events. But the truth is, at public, like these big forums and events, that's not where you get the alpha. So I try to bring you as many questions and direct questions. And sometimes with guests, I'm very direct because I think that's where the value is too. Is you know asking them tough questions sometimes, or real questions, right? Not just what's your background. That's fine, right? I mean, you know that we start every show with a background because it's important to give context. But I really want to bring as much education as possible because I think that that's really ultimately what gives you power and just access to information gives you power. I think it gives you also a different way of thinking that if you're not hanging out every day with these people or connecting with them, or if you're still in school, if you still have a day job, I mean, it's impossible for you to have access to these people just because life, right? You go to work, you go back home, you have dinner, and then if you're not 5, 8, 10, 12 hours a day connected to these different industries, it's difficult to get alpha. So today is going to be about talking. So media. I'm looking at the headline here. So CEO of Tech Talk Media and Impossible Media. So it'll be more media, crypto, NFT focus. So we'll see. We'll have Jonny on in about, I believe, 10 minutes. Team, if you can confirm this. I believe 10 minutes. Let's have a look here. Yeah, we'll start in exactly 10 minutes. We'll go for another 5 minutes here. I just want to go through a few quick headlines here. So, I saw this yesterday. SEC's new staking guidance sparks legal and institutional backlash. So this is a bit weird, right? The SEC is under fire following a dramatic shift in its stance on crypto staking. In a May 29 update from its division of corporation corporate finance, the agency suggested that some staking services may not qualify as securities. So what happened here was, this is the tweet. The SEC's shameful abdication of its investor protection mission continues. So they basically, yes, the SEC can disappear crypto-related investigations by closing them all. So it's been very interesting to see in this case how the SEC has basically flip-flopped on staking. So I've said this a few times on the show. I think that until we get the actual framework, which is due between August and October this year, they've been saying August, September. Give it, there's always delays with government agencies, so say October would be good. Then we'll see a lot of these flip flops, right? So take everything with a grain of salt. Of course, there's outrage, right? Oh my God, the SEC said this 2 months ago. Now they're changing. A lot of these agencies just put out headlines and then they see how they just. This is a classic media, and you see politicians do this all the time. They'll flow like two different ideas, see what gets support, see what doesn't get support, and then just use the one, like go with the one that is the most appealing to people. So we'll see. Until we have a clear framework and guidance from the SEC and its quote official, we will see a lot of flip-flopping. We might see a lot of flip-flopping, just like this one. Circle is pretty bullish in my view. I know this is very far from anything from that the tenets of crypto, which was everything was born out of decentralization and privacy. Circle, of course, I'd say that one of the top two stable coins, right? With Tether, Circle is the other big one. USDC targets almost $900 million in IPO valuation, hit 7.2 billion. This is literally the opposite of what crypto was, but I'm okay with it. Look, you have to evolve. You have to, when things change, one of the most famous quotes when it comes to entrepreneurship and also investing is, if the weather changes, get your umbrella out. I don't know. It's a quote. It's probably 100 or 150 years old. This very famous investor, I forget the name, but this is one of those tales in investment, in the investment circles. This journalist says, so the story is, big name investor likes a stock for a long time, and then one day wakes up and doesn't like the stock or the company anymore. Journalist comes up and says, hey, what happened? You were so bullish on this. You were so adamant on this. Says, yes, look, it could be a stock, could be the economy, but the parable is the same. And the investor tells the journalist, yes, sir. When the weather changes and it starts raining, I get the umbrella out. And so if you remember that, just keep that's this small story in mind. When things change, it's okay to change your opinion, right? Crypto, when it started, say 15, 17 years ago, Bitcoin and everything, the mission was very different to now seeing corporations hoard Bitcoin. Very different. Just have to change. And so, we still see sometimes extreme levels of Bitcoin maxi on the timeline every now and then. I have nothing against Bitcoin maxis. I think it's fine. Like, you can be in anything maxi. But you also have to be aware that things have changed, and it's okay. Like, the world evolves, things change. In this case, Circle is IPOing at 7.2 billion, or at least valuation so far at 7.2 billion. So interesting. We'll see this. This is the offering. It's when you have the big boys like BlackRock interested, there is nothing decentralized about this, and that's fine. Just have to adapt. All right. Another one here, Robinhood acquiring Bitstamp. This is interesting too. So, when you can't compete directly, or you don't want to spend years building something, you just acquire. This is a very good move strategically. So this was announced. This was announced last year. So this is not breaking news. This is a very good way for Robinhood to literally acquire licenses and new territories. So that moved too. That's a pretty good move. Metaplanet here acquires more Bitcoin. Again, we talked about corporations buying Bitcoin. And before I forget, let me send the team here the link. There you go. For our guest, for Jonny. So that's about Metaplanet. Japanese investment firm Metaplanet has ramped up its Bitcoin acquisition strategy, announcing again buying another 1,000 Bitcoin. We've covered Metaplanet, if not every week, at least twice a month, right, over the last few months. And they want to buy more. They've made it very clear. I think they were targeting, was it 10,000? Yeah. Year-end goal of holding 10,000 BTC, a milestone that now appears well within reach. So even though we've been in this choppy range between we dipped down to like the 78K, right? BTC, 1,400 ETH. And then, of course, it's been nice, right? Seeing Bitcoin over 100K chopping, and almost like with no real bullish catalysts, aside from these headlines that we've seen dozens of these headlines, right? Everything we've seen, we've talked about the SEC, almost every show, talk about corporations buying Bitcoin. We talk about companies acquiring or going public. So this is nothing new. And I will say something here before we take a quick break. If you guys want to know what VCs and how VCs think, we had a very good show last week with Laura. Talked about basically, so she's at Gate, the centralized exchange, and we talked about VCs, and she's on the venture side arm. So very interesting if you want to understand kind of how do VC arms, how do venture capitalists think. And I think everyone should watch this episode. You can find it on the main page. Lessons retail can steal from VCs. the more you can, especially as we see more and more institutional players coming into the space, the more you learn about how institutions and venture capitalists think, the more you will understand the games they try to play, the more money you will make, basically. So I highly recommend you guys check out the show that we did last week. As the market matures, you need to be a much more mature player to succeed. So that was on the show last week with Laura, who looks after the venture arm of Gate. So let's take a quick 3 to 4 minute break. I will mute myself, and then we will welcome Jonny to the show, and we will talk media. And as you know, sometimes random topics come up during these shows. So stay tuned. We will be back in about, let's have a look, in about 3-4 minutes. All right, team, you should be good now. So let's put the banner on, and back in 3 minutes. Hey, Matthias here, and if you're enjoying this and want access to even more alpha, early stage deals and opportunities, and also behind the scenes insights on the markets, hit the link in the description and make sure you're subscribed. It's free and it puts you ahead of the curve. Let's get back to the show. You should be good to go, Jonny. Audio and video should be good. We are live.
How are you, Matthias?
How we going?
Yeah. How's everything going? Sorry, I'm just making sure my audio settings are working there perfectly.
Video is fine. Audio is perfect.
There we go.
Perfect. Welcome to the show.
Sorry for the hiccup. I should be better production at that.
No, all good, all good. So we start these shows with a quick read of the bio that we have about you, and then it's always more impactful if you actually tell your story. Very curious to hear more about you from your perspective on what you've done, and then we'll just talk about entrepreneurship, a bit of crypto, and just see where the show leads us. So Jonny is CEO of Tech Talk Media and Impossible Media. A very long background as an entrepreneur, Creative Entrepreneur of the Year in 2022 at the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, multi-award winning entrepreneur and filmmaker, VIP contributor at entrepreneur.com and Vogue, media personality, co-host of Tech Talk on Amazon Prime, executive producer and director of The Rise of AI, NFTme, Inside NASA's Innovations, and winner of 25 plus international film awards, and born in London, UK, won the award from the Duke of Edinburgh at age 14 for entrepreneurship. Started his first real business at age 16. By age 21, had built a $60 million gaming platform with Fortune 100 partners. After several successful tech companies, opened Tech Talk Media / Impossible Media in 2017, providing a bridge for new tech innovation, entrepreneurship, and emerging markets and ideas to broadcast TV across 195 countries. That's the bio.
Well, you could just say,
tell us more.
Here's Jonny, right? It would be a lot shorter. So thanks for that absolute mouthful. There was a TED talk that I saw once. She talked about these people in our society that have many different creative outlets, and I find myself one of those people. So if it's a bit of a mouthful, it's just I keep myself busy, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of interesting stuff. Got my hands in many pots, so to speak. But absolutely, I've been on the cusp of entrepreneurship and innovation for most of my life. I've been amazed by what I saw on television when I was a kid, in shows like Tomorrow's World that used to show us, these robots and things. I actually wrote an article for entrepreneur.com recently, which talked about entrepreneurs and innovators are often their ideas come from films. So they see stuff in the movies. The filmmakers just want to make things that look cool, right? They don't actually think about building this tech. Then innovators, engineers see the stuff they think of it. And that's how this cycle happens of we think that the movies are the truth, but they're just influencing us. So look, thanks so much for a mouthy introduction. Like I said, I really been just amazed by what human innovation and things that one human being is able to create, especially with the rise of technology, the internet, computers, laptops. And my first business that you talked about, I built it from my bedroom with a laptop on my own.
Yep.
And was able to do
I did
that.
the same, so I'm curious. So how did you get started with your very first one?
So the first what I call a real company, I had lots of companies, but from a money point of view, they were very reasonable. They're very honorable, but they, wasn't big ticket. I made a company called moneygaming.com, which was the first site where you could play skill-based games for money online. So when poker came out and casinos came out, I said, this is fantastic. This is digital software, digital worlds, no hostess, right? No car parking charges. And you're servicing these people and getting a service fee. But I didn't really want to have a gambling platform and be dishonorable and sort of take advantage of people where they're going to lose over time. So I said we could set the same thing up. There are no gaming laws. You can play games where if you're better, you win. And if you're worse and you spend money, you're pretty stupid, right? If you keep throwing money, if you're bad at something, you bet someone at basketball and you beat them every time. It's worth putting some money on it, right? Because you know your skill. So the tagline was "Put your money where your mouse is," instead of where your mouth.
What year was this, by the way?
This is 2004.
Got it. Okay.
And it was really at the cusp of this. We were the first platform that did it. I raised just a little over $8 million in the UK. One of those investors was Michael Spencer, who owns an investment bank. He's a 30% shareholder of the London Stock Exchange. So it was newsworthy. He was a backgammon gambler when he was younger. So I built that. And then after Money Gaming, built a company called pokercontrols.com, which made actual hardware for online poker players. They were all playing hundreds of millions of them with the mouse, and it was too fast to get on these measures. So we built tools that they could dial in exactly across platforms, and it sold in retail stores and online across the world and so on, and a few other companies. But maybe you didn't see in my bio that in one of my companies, I took the opportunity of using television as a platform. So it was actually Poker Controls. I got on Dragon's Den in the UK, which is like Shark Tank.
Very cool.
And I was,
it's the original Shark Tank, by the way.
Really? Is that where it came from?
Dragon's Den was because I watched the very first ones with Theo Paphides and
he was on.
And yes, of course.
Duncan
Duncan
Ballantyne.
Ballantyne, the gems, of course.
And the blonde lady, what's her name? Forget. And Peter. Absolutely. That was the cast. Those are the people I saw. So,
it's the very first one.
It was original.
Peter Jones.
I think it was series 9. That was it. So
nice.
I was really excited because I've been on TV as a kid. I'd been on stage. I wasn't afraid of that. And the company I had was Poker Controls, and we were doing really well. We just really wanted TV exposure. So I went on doing the absolute maximum you could go for the minimum price, because I wanted to push their buttons and see what they did. So when my segment comes on,
is it on YouTube, by the way? Your segment?
Yeah, you can find it, absolutely. So
nice, cool.
Yeah, I can send you the link. So the thing is the production team had looked at all of my data, everything I've done. They were like, dude, this is an amazing company. Like, you're definitely going to do really well on this. And they're very encouraging. Now, the sharks are not meant to know anything, right? That's the theory. They don't know anything you present to them. I presented to them a little bit shaky. I hadn't slept the night before. I was staying in a hotel nearby. I was a bit nervous, for sure, shaky. But I did a good pitch, and they all said it was a great pitch. And then I had a great time. Duncan Ballantyne used the poker controller. He gambled. He lost my money, right? Like we were joking about. He did the wrong bets and he lost. And it was all very good. And I was there for like an hour. And Deborah Meaden, who's the blonde lady, said,
"There you go.
Jonathan, I think you're possibly one of the best entrepreneurs who's pitched on this show. I know nothing about gambling." But I can't tell whether you're just a fantastic businessman, but I know nothing about the industry. So and Peter said to me, Jonathan, I feel like the most beautiful bunch of flowers has been delivered to me. They smell nice and they look nice, but something doesn't feel right. It's like a very, very, very kind of strange thing. So
he said that several times on the show. Yeah,
right. Okay, there you go. So I didn't know that. It's the first time I heard that. So anyway, I actually had a really good pitch until the last 5 minutes, where what they tried to tell me, I had a partnership dispute in one of my companies, and what they did is they wanted to go into that, and they shouldn't have known about that. I was giving them the information to tell them what happened before that happened, and they were pushing to find out the end result because they knew it, and they were basically targeting me to set me up. And one of the partners did some unfair things with the stock of that company. So it's a horrible thing to want to happen to you in the first place. You certainly don't want to talk about it on camera, and you kind of want to explain the story before you tell them what happened, because otherwise it's going to make me sound bad, and I did nothing wrong. So what they did is they made good TV. I came off. I didn't get investment, which I find I didn't want it, but they took half of the good stuff and half of the bad stuff. And they say beforehand, the higher the stake you go for, the greater the scrutiny you get. And then they put me on, and it goes through. So what was the point of me telling you all this? That for me was like a bit of a scar. I had a great company. I went on there. The last thing I needed was them to make it look stupid, because I came on honorably, done everything great. If you want to make drama because that's what you care about TV, I'm out of that. I came here to do entrepreneurship. And they didn't big me up as an entrepreneur, not what they showed. They showed very small inklings of that. So a few years later, I was helping some other companies, and I realized there was just a massive gap. Like The Apprentice, Shark Tank, all of those shows aren't really representative of entrepreneurship, business, innovation, things that are going on in the real world. They're dramatized. When I went to Amazon in the first instance of creating this company, and I said to them, I want to make a show all about entrepreneurship, they were like, great. Do they fight? Is there drama? I said, no, but there's flying cars and robots looking after the elderly, 3D holographic surgery. And they were like, yeah. But do they steal companies off each other and stuff? Like, what is that mentality? So we built a company where we independently finance it. We made all the shows that you talk about. We got out, I think, 20 titles, several in development as well. We now make movies and all sorts of things. What we've done, the first show generated like $500 million for those 50 startups that we built on the show. We got 11 awards, but it went on the educational system in UK. PwC picked it up. NASA came to us and said, let's do a production. All these kind of things sparked off of doing positive uplifting of other people. So we created the rise of AI. We created the cannabis.
I see it.
We created NFTme, about the crypto metaverse, that world that was I found myself learning about Web3, sort of loving this independent thinking, freestyle, new technology. It's all my stuff. You're hitting all the right nuggets. And I came in and I became one of these guys that was, being advisory in companies, being, consultant and advisor in companies, and then sitting inside Twitter rooms and spaces and Clubhouse and explaining to people the journey that I had learned to learn this stuff. And we realized there was, what is this gap? Why are we sitting in rooms talking to each other about why isn't it simpler to learn to get in it? So we made NFTme, and NFTme was like front page of sort of 40, 50 newspapers at the time, premiered on Amazon Prime. And we took the crypto industry on broadcast television to the rest of the world so that they could appreciate, what was going on here and get involved.
What's funny is you probably did more for onboarding, that onboarding the masses and a lot of these apps online that raise 50 million for like an old app that never works in Web3 and tries to get people to connect to wallets and use it for a payment system. So, and
having said that, we honestly didn't make money out of the show, because the deals that we gave were in order to get it as fast as distributed to the wider space. We didn't hold back. We didn't negotiate. We just said yes, because we felt the world needed to understand it. So for the people that raised millions of dollars and didn't even, touch anything, to us kind of like actually spending some of our own money to make sure that people learn about that. And look, we're still licensing it today, and over time we'll generate a profit. But it's right now we still spend money doing that.
Yeah. So what's the business model behind this? Is like completely unrelated to like the questions so full disclosure, the team puts together questions, and they know I usually don't follow a single question. It's because I just go off vibes
Best
and
way.
and follow the conversation. I'm curious, what's the business model behind, and you don't need I'm not asking for the numbers and figures. I'm just curious. So you basically took media and new topics, interesting topics, viral topics, NFT at the right time. What's the business model behind it? Is it, you have a connection to Amazon and it's like, okay, this is what we can do. We did 2 of these shows, 2 of these documentaries. This is the style. This is the topic. We can get it done in a month, or what's the process basically?
Definitely doesn't take a month. So, good question. So the normal process is that you pitch an idea to a network. They
Yep.
buy onto it. They give you a certain budget to create certain small pilot of it. They then greenlight you a deal if you get it,
Yep.
right? And then they control the editorial, they control the process, they pay for it, right? And there's not really any money made until the thing's finished, and then there's kind of a deal based on the actual content itself. Okay,
Yep.
so the production is paid for, and then you get a deal. That way is totally against everything I ever worked for, that you don't have the IP and the control that you work hard for. So we had to reinvent that. When we first started this company, it was our own money and private investment, friends and family, that we started the first production. We paid for it. We went to Amazon after they told us no because of drama, and then we got it broadcast on there, independently financed, and then we sold licenses to over 40 networks across the world in 80 plus countries. So instead of being limited to one, our ROI went up because we have the control that we do that. We do virtually the same thing. The deals totally differ. Actually, from every 2 years, they change. Different deals, depending on the lifetime of the content, depending on the region, depending how the content is digested in the region. But there's a range of deals, and what we do is we just have multiple. Some of them we have advertising deals in some reason where we have a share of advertising revenues, or there's multiple deals.
But you control the IP ultimately. You own the production, right? And then you license it out.
We own 100% of our content, except for the latest show. Our Rise of AI show became second most popular on an Indian network. They came back and they just loved what we did, and they made drama, not really true life faction. So they said, look, we want to make a show. Gambling is very, very big in India. We think there's nothing that we've seen online that does gambling. So you asked me about time. The last 18 months, I've been making this show called Place Your Bets.
Okay.
Place Your Bets is a docudrama. We interviewed Jennifer Tilly from Desperate Housewives, and Phil Hellmuth and Daniel Negreanu, the #1 poker players. Maya Lansky II, Maya Lansky's grandson, the gangster who started Vegas, and Dr. Alamo from the gambling Vegas Gaming Commission. Oscar Goodman from Casino, the movie, and who's the ex-mayor of Las Vegas. All these kind of like big names and in the gaming space. And we filmed a documentary about gambling, right? About how it affects people, about what brings it to our culture, the human nature, what made them make these choices, and then we interlace it with a drama. It's the first time we've done it, so we interlace it with a drama. So while you're watching, you're hearing from these great guys. You then hit into a mini series, a mini drama of a young couple. They see a gaming advert. She says to him, you'd never do that. And he's like, no way. And then he keeps seeing it, and then he starts, hiding it, and then gambling, and the rest of the journey there. So we're changing it up. We're doing dramas, but we're doing stuff to bring. You asked me how long does it take? When we got NFTme out, you don't see the 2 years beforehand that it's a blessing, but we foresee these markets. Being entrepreneurs, being investors, being in the market and helping lots of different people, we have these connections with emerging tech. We kind of see it in time, and then we're able to generate it and build it. It takes the knowledge. Not most producers around the world have tried to get into the business space, not understood the right way to make it engaging, not had the right connections or knowledge to actually push the thing forwards in a positive way. And we found to do that. And we've become like the Entrepreneur or Forbes of television, in that sense that we elevate business and give them a platform, give you a way to access it in a digestible way. And then we create that in multi-formats across the world. Some of it streams online, most of it's on TV or streaming. But it's tier one, top production value, 4K, beautifully crafted, very creative, innovative content. So it's engaging for all generations.
How many have you produced so far?
We have 7 series that we've completed, 3 documentaries, feature documentaries. We have another 3 movies in production right now, and like another 8 series.
Nice.
So a lot of stuff going on.
What made you make the jump from, let's call it, more traditional entrepreneurship to pure media, right? So a production company, because it's become, I ask because I took probably 8-9 months of acting classes in London just for fun. I got injured very early as a professional tennis player, so went into entrepreneurship from a very young age. The tale of literally selling things to your neighbors when you're 7 years old. I did that. Started doing Google AdWords in 2001, 2002. So went through all that. I'm always interested in the leaps entrepreneurs take from one sector to the other, right? What made you want to, or what pushed you? Is it opportunity, saying like, okay, there's a space that we can really seize, and this kind of bridge between the apprentices of the world, and there's no one really doing a real life of entrepreneurship? What made you go into media?
Sorry to cut you in there. I'd come to the peak of what was I'd done these amazing companies from, I didn't come from, money in the sense that it was easy for me to start companies. Everything was from dust, right? Hard work, and I'm happy to have done it that way. Yeah, absolutely. And I then reinvested or reworked the money always. That's basically the way I operate. But it was really important for me that these were wholesome enterprises that worked, that was structured really well. Sorry, the question, I lost track of what you were asking.
No. The question is, what made you make the jump from, let's say, those bootstrap businesses to now producing documentaries and shows?
Absolutely. So number one is I'm still an entrepreneur. I have 10, 12 businesses. This is my main business, but I have things I'm innovating, even in the Web3 market, right? There are a combination of the skills of things that I've done in the past and now. But the thing is I come to the peak, right? I've been like this point with companies, and every company needs exposure. So we're all building, and I'm always building in emerging, innovative spaces. So all these companies, what do you need? What do you need? Exposure. Like, everybody freaking needs it. And if you want to get on top of Google or whatever, it changed. When we were buying AdWords in 2004, I could compete. When I was buying TV adverts, guess how much I was buying TV adverts in the UK? I was buying 15 pounds for a 30-second advert, buying 400 of them at the end of the month, paying like £5,000 and getting 400 30-second adverts on television. And that's how we promoted money gaming. That's how it grew. But those types of deals are gone. Right, you can't. You have to spend an absolute fortune. You spend £50 or £5,000. It gets you, a smidgen, and it doesn't convert. So my point was, there's lots of exciting stuff. It's very hard for me. You build an accounting business for me to make a TV show and make it sound good. But if you're doing something innovative and it's cool in some way, you're stopping heart attacks, you're stopping dementia, you're making, I don't know, birds turn their wings into planes, I don't know, just something different, then everybody wants to hear about it, and it's easy to make the media. And it was a hard slog to get those broadcast partners. It was a hard slog to build a reputation, and who are these guys, and what's their content like. And we just,
especially if you don't have a pure media background, or you're not a producer in film, you're breaking into a new industry.
Absolutely. And it was sheer hard work, and we're still breaking through in certain areas, and it's exciting. That's the fun bit of a business. If you've got all the money and all the contacts to start off with, it might be cool, but there is no sense of achievement. And this journey of building and getting there, and when you get somewhere, that lasts a lifetime. So we're enjoying the ride. There's a lot going, and we're looking at other ways we can collaborate, other ways we can innovate on television. You can now click, if you like my shirt, you can click on the screen and my shirt will go dong, and then it'll go, buy this on Amazon or whatever. But you can interact. There's apps that you can interact with the show, and I can say, okay, put likes up on the screen, and it's going to go like, things that in real time. New technologies.
No, I'm very bullish on what you just like in like entertainment, shopping, live, seeing something that someone's wearing, a coat, a hat, and being able to instant. I'm surprised still why Amazon with the money they have today in 2025 don't have something like that on Prime. It's billions of dollars in free money. There's no acquisition cost for them. It's only the tech. Everything's there. I'm very surprised. And it's not a new idea, right? I mean, I remember discussing this 10 years ago with AdTech friends. So it's not new, right? It's Instagram brought it to e-commerce, right? In 2018, 2019, we were one of the first advertisers to have access to like e-commerce. Now it's popular, but e-commerce shopping instantly, when you see the dress, you can click to buy. I'm shocked why Amazon of all companies doesn't have that. You watch a show, hey, here's the dress, click buy. It's it'll come, but I'm surprised why it's not all over the place yet.
They're innovating in other areas. They have their warehouse robots, they have their drones and stuff like that. But the customer facing stuff, if you look at the shop, if you look at the website, if you look at the customer reviews, I mean, it's like 1980s website stuff, right? So it's very hard for them to do a massive overhaul like that. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised they're paying commissions to people to make videos of product reviews, because they haven't just got a bit of technology that takes every product and makes some kind of automatic review in AI about it.
I agree.
But listen, they're 100% behind on stuff, because I tried to innovate with stuff, and some of our stuff they didn't really understand. So it's a big company. Big companies are always hard to move in new directions.
When you've been in business for at least a few years, you understand that the biggest companies are actually the worst ones to work for and the slowest ones to move, because no one wants to take a risk. Your C-level, representative of the company just wants his salary at the end of the year, a nice bonus. The last thing he wants is to push something and have it fail, and have 85 million that he needs to report back to the board and say, why did this go wrong? That's the last thing they want. So it always comes from fringe entrepreneurs who are at the cutting edge and do something. Look at AI, even the tools. If you look at ChatGPT and the smaller ones, it's not Microsoft that innovated. Now Microsoft and Google are playing catch up. Speaking of AI, I see here the rise of AI. What's your take on where are we in the AI cycle right now? What's your take?
I think we're in the cycle of understanding. So in the sense that we're using it, and the AI companies are trying to build data and use the data to understand what you're putting into it, how it reacts to you. It's kind of a testing phase. And you're interacting with it the first time, just like we saw in those movies, war games and those sorts of things. First time you ever heard, like, oh, it's talking back to me, and now it's like, it's glazing things, and it's like, it's apologizing. It gets things wrong continually. I would say that I use AI a lot, and it's always letting me down. Absolutely. And it's apologizing, and it's getting things wrong, and it's fumbling. So there's definitely a process. It's overheating the phones, it's overheating the browser and the computer. There is a gap right now. Look, I sat with a professor, Professor Eli Kolberg, in university in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and he created the Israeli robot soccer team. And you got these robots, they talk to each other, they kick the ball.
I've seen those clips. I didn't know they. Okay, yeah.
Right. So they play against each other.
Very cool.
So I sat with him and I said to him, what's the deal? He says the problem is the robots. We hope by 2050 that will have a successful robot soccer team. And I'm seeing them play right now, and I'm like, what do you mean 2050? He's like, well, the robots can't compute fast enough like a human does, and can't react fast enough, and the components don't act fast enough like a human does. So we're away from the technology actually working enough, processing and actioning to do stuff to challenge us. As I always say to other people, that we still don't understand the capacity of our brains and bodies. So how can we build something that can overtake us? Because we can't even program to understand what our capacity is to do that. So I think humans will always catch up or always innovate and change. I think we're away from the AI taking over. I think we're just advancing us. We'll develop faster. Technology will come out much faster. New advancements and all sorts of things because we'll nail the answers to things very quickly. I think that drugs and medical things will change. There'll be a lot more robots around and visible signs of innovation. And there'll be problems to go with that. There's going to be bad people, right? And there's going to be lots of good stuff, but it's not like a drama. You could have a swarm of drones come towards you that are powered by AI, and you can literally get like a hose and for instance, I don't know if that will work, but I'm just saying there's a simple answer sometimes to stopping the technology, the fear that people have of it. So I think AI is advancing very well. I use it, often daily for various different businesses. And I advise everyone to use it with caution. It's not your friend. I wrote an article saying AI is not your friend. It leaked my confidential info. I told it I was working in stealth mode. Then I tested it from another terminal, another browser, not logged in, and asked it about me, and it told me about the stealth stuff that I was working on. So I just proved that it was, not your friend. So be careful about the info that you give the computers. Use the computers to your advantage and not to their advantage. If they don't talk about it emotionally too much, don't tell it all your family's names and their whereabouts and your personal secrets. But it's an amazing advancement. Look how fast everything's moving now. Look at the crypto market. Look how the crypto market is hesitating because it's still at its point of inflection, right? We've been here for several years, and everybody thought, it's going, but it didn't go, right? It just we're holding its breath. Waiting for the tide. And I think we're still waiting for America to get through a lot of the complicated things that they have in its market so that crypto can then actually have some focus and not feel like that was the first thing they were doing, but have to save world war and all those things first, and then kind of get stuck in on crypto. So I think, crypto has a big future, and it is somewhat tied into AI because AI is helping us to develop, and AI will help to fix things and to check things and lots of other things in the crypto market. So there's a lot of stuff coming, right? There's going to be flying cars and vehicles soon. There's going to be robots in our homes. There's going to be drones delivering or robots on the road doing all sorts of things. Maybe we can beat cancer. Maybe we can beat heart disease. Maybe, and this is all to technology, really.
Yeah. What's interesting about AI is actually in 2016, 2017, I had office space in London for some of my businesses and meeting pretty regularly at Facebook HQ. So they have several beautiful offices in London, and meeting with some of the Facebook engineers before the Cambridge Analytica scandal, after which Facebook basically didn't give access to engineers anymore for very obvious reasons. What's interesting is AI is not new for people who have been using it. Like for us on the advertising side, on the ad tech side, we've been Meta now, right? Facebook has been giving you these tools, especially if you're if you're a large spender with them for years before ChatGPT. Now the word AI is a buzzword, but the actual technology it's been used by businesses for the last 10 plus years now. I think now there's much more of a mainstream understanding of what it does,
100%. It's been used since the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
So by the army, by the military, they've been using some form of computer processing, whether it's these massive computers and terminals that they had to build. They did it in, like D-Day. They had to like uncover codes and all these kind of machines and processing.
Early AI, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of the computer advancing itself by thinking in some way.
Yeah.
So I absolutely, and it just became a buzzword. And it was kind of lucky that we made our show literally, I think, the same month ChatGPT became mainstream. It was very, very strange. So
timing, amazing. Yeah.
So, but absolutely, it's not new technology. It's not actually that clever technology. It's just a bit of code that tells it to like rethink about the data and put it back again, and then always take that into consideration. Basically, have all this data, keep it. Don't just think once. Don't just do a basic thing, but then you can actually think about it in 3 dimensions or something. And that's it. That's basically it. So look, it's going to become very powerful. It's going to do some amazing stuff. It's also going to be incredibly stupid and sluggish and slow at times.
Surprisingly, sometimes. I agree.
I get so frustrated at how dumb it is at times. Like you'll ask it for maybe like 12 chapters or 12 images, and then you say, okay, can you give me a summary of those? And then it will go like 1, 2, 3, 4. I can only give you a short, and it just gets locked at not being able to think more, or gives you the wrong things, or you keep changing an image and it starts changing this to red and that to blue. You said, don't change anything, just change it. But you're changing stuff, dude. So
I agree with you. It's it gets dates wrong, like basic things every now and then. So I agree. It's still in its infancy. Like this is like stage 1 of 100, which is also I am surprised that the professor you spoke to said that he's estimating that that they need 25 years to actually build a robust football team.
That's what he said in terms of the components. Makes by the time the processing and data will be fast enough, where he would calculate it enough. I was shocked. I almost fell off. I mean, he must be 60 to 70 years old. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like that's kind of my vision of the age bracket he has. So it's not, whether it's within his lifetime or not, I don't know, right? But he's working there, and he's head of the robotics department, and that's what he's saying. So he deals with this on a daily basis, and I saw all these. It's amazing work they're doing, but shocking how behind it is compared to the media hype.
I agree. Also, I think people tend to forget who's actually influencing the media. There's always an agenda, right? I mean, AI has a lot of money. They've raised the AI space has raised hundreds of billions of dollars in the last few years. There's a lot of money to sweeten the deal, to sweeten the pot when it comes to journalists. So anything you read now is going to be heavily, of course, and there's a lot of incentives for AI companies to influence politics today. We've seen this in tech, we've seen this in ad tech, we've seen this now with AI. It's the same game every new industry has played, and so there's a lot of fear, of course, in the media. So, but of course, it's funded by always. I think people tend to forget who's paying for the articles directly and or indirectly. I have a few questions. We have about 10 minutes left tops. What is your biggest loss in entrepreneurship? What is the most painful lesson you went through?
So partners, probably one of the hardest things to find in the world. Just like marriage, very, very difficult. It is marriage, effectively. If not, when you're in a marriage, there's no money that really comes, but the money shouldn't come between you, right? The money you might argue about it, but it's unlikely in a marriage that you're there to steal each other's money or anything like that. So money is a very poisonous thing on certain levels. So when you do very well, people change. And what I've seen in business is the change in people. I've seen how, morals and bonds and things like that go completely out the window. And I've had to learn the hard way. You talked about having an accident when you were younger. I burnt myself with boiling hot water, something, hot cup in the kitchen when I was 1. So I had burns. I went for years to the burn clinic on my body. It broke my back when I was 17. So I've been through serious different traumatic things. I'm not going to go through all my life story probably, but I've been through things that have humbled me and made me compassionate and empathetic and understanding, but also resilient and strong and more capable of getting through whatever life throws at me. So I think one of the secrets of my success for sure is resilience, is the fact that it's always been hard, dude. It's never been easy. Not one business have I ever built where it was like, oh, I did this and bam, they came in and woohoo, let's count the money and, sip margaritas. It never happened like that. And I don't really want it to. It would have been lame. So, the point is that I can build anything. I just have to imagine it. I have to think about it. I have to get the right team together. But I learned that be very careful with your partners. If you can control what you build, if you do most of the work, if it's most of your inspiration, if it's most of your perspiration, keep most of the IP, the equity to yourself. Make sure you have a shareholding that no matter if you bring in investors, you'll always be strong. You'll always be a sole voice and an owner of your creations. It's often hard, but you have to start with that mindset. That's really it. And you have to work harder than you have to be there until the end. You have to be there in the earliest. You have to be there the latest. There is no quick fix to doing this. You literally have to just work through it. This all stuff that but really like telling to your audience that it really is perspiration and resilience. And with passion, determination, and resilience, you can do anything. You don't need a diploma. Don't need a bank account. You just need passion, determination, resilience. You do anything.
You know what's interesting about, because you're definitely older than Gen Z, right? So, and I mean that as a compliment, because you've seen a lot more. You've gone through pain, right? And you've gone through challenges that you've had to overcome. What's interesting is I feel like starting out 20 years ago now, so my first quote real company was in 2007 after I retired from pro tennis. But I was making money before that online, just as an affiliate marketer early in the 2000s. I feel like entrepreneurship is really not a glamorous. It's not a glamorous career. But it's, and this because you started out when there was no social media, right? I'm not old, but I remember no WhatsApp, no Instagram, no YouTube. You wake up, we had Skype, and I would communicate with my VA and my developer, and then it was like you just work on your computer. And now it's been glamorized, and it looks cool, but it's not fun. Like building businesses, a lot, like 90% of the time is, and you mentioned at the beginning of the show, you mentioned, is there drama in the show? Do they want to steal each other's, property and everything? Most of the time, people like that you'll spend as an entrepreneur is actually very boring. It's mundane tasks. But I think that, what I've noticed is very few people are actually willing to do that boring, the first 6 to 24 months of boring tasks. And I feel like this generation, this is not to sound old, but we see it too. I feel like there's much more entitlement than 20 years ago and wanting extremely quick results, wanting to put up an e-commerce store or forget about door-to-door today, but doing any kind of retail. There's so much desire to want to have a quick win. The truth is, if you're not willing to go through 12 to 24 months of struggle, finding the ideal customer, nailing down your US, all these basic things, I think this generation, very few actually have the resilience to put up with it. It's not glamorous.
They've been softened. Look, if you're mollycoddled, if your mother and father protect you in every, wrap you in cotton wool and everything you do, it actually doesn't strengthen you. But if you roll around in the dirt and you go out and you get a few knocks and scrapes, you become much stronger. So they've been mollycoddled. They've had AI to think about and process stuff. They had social media to firstly give them shortcuts to everything, and then also give them a shortcut to fame and money, and it's short-lived, unappreciative, and entitled money that doesn't fuel them and sustain them for the future. So it's definitely a dangerous slope. I see it with some of the much younger generation, turning 18 now.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's a massive problem. And look, as with everything, they're going to learn from their own lessons or experiences. There is no, silver lining at the end of the day. Life is difficult. That's part of the fun. Like, if life was easy, it would be a breeze and there'd be nothing to it. It's yin yang. You need bad to have good. If you didn't have bad, you would never understand the good. So the struggle is what gives you the appreciation afterwards, the feeling of satisfaction, the thing that makes you feel achieved is from getting to that point afterwards. So it's a path, and they're going to find it, but it's going to be a harder path for them because they're trying the shortcut, and the shortcut doesn't work.
I agree. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And growing up in a space, in an environment that's very difficult to ignore today, people say ignore social media. It's very difficult. I mean, a lot of the time you can't even book tickets, right? You can't travel without a phone. You need social media. So you're going to be exposed to what entrepreneurship looks like, but it's not. The truth is, it's miles away from what you see on social media.
Yeah, and social media is very damaging. It affects people's minds. I've also seen friends heavily affected by what they see on social media, and that really is very damaging to them mentally. So I worry about a whole generation that's being programmed by social media who doesn't really care about them, doesn't really think about their future, but's thinking about creating a buck, right? And earning more and more money from exposing them to things. And they don't care about, the same I found with television networks is that the content is very edgy. It's very dark. It's bad for society. And unfortunately, people don't make content which is wholesome anymore, which is nurturing society. So that's what we're hell-bent on. Our stuff is positive, inspirational, educational, exciting, but engaging. It gets you excited. It gets you hot under the collar, right? It does all those things, but in a positive way. And then you get up and you say, geez, if that guy can do it, maybe I can do it. And you change your life. It's not just, this is bubble gum for my brain, and I'm going to go out and do damage to society or hurt someone because it's cool. So, we're working to battle that, but it's a battle. I think media companies are exposing themselves today. I think we've seen that, right? They expose themselves the last couple of years. We're starting to see, COVID, what you're saying about politics, what you're saying about all sorts of things around the world, not really the case. So I think, celebrities, politicians, governments, a lot of things are being exposed today. And it's an exciting time because social media, AI, all these technologies, Web3 gives us access to work outside of the mainstream and do these kind of things. It's a creator's market right now. So there's a lot going on. I think it's really, really exciting. But of course, we have to be careful of the tech. We have to use it responsibly. We have to harness its best and try to suppress all of the badness from it. But we've got to change the media. We've got to change this content. We've got to work together. We've got to stand up and speak when it's not right and do things to change it. And people have to innovate. It really is. It takes one person. Mark Zuckerberg was really one main guy pushing this thing forwards that made social media. So he changed a whole generation. It only takes one guy to change it in a even more positive way. So get up, try something. Don't be scared to fail. Failure is just a step on the way to success. So what have you got to be scared of?
Very well said. Last question here about what are you the most excited? What excites you today? And of course, we talked about AI, but what do you look forward to the next few months, years? What gets you excited when it comes to business? What's happening in the world today?
So just like I said, I found a business. You asked me about how I changed from entrepreneurship to filmmaking. It's still entrepreneurship. The first show, we had a separate team that helped the business develop those companies, right? So it was still entrepreneurship, but in a different way. We started from the marketing rather than starting from the company building. So what I'm doing now is we've started to work out how to really inspire people and to educate about new markets, and then make these markets, uplift the markets, help to generate the markets, which is It's a spark. It's an amazing thing. So now that we're inspiring and educating and innovating and pushing markets, we're now moving into culture shifting. All this damage that you've seen from society is we're working on new ways to bring you this, including feature films that change your life. You watch it, it inspires you to do something good, to do something different, to change something positive in your life, which mostly on the whole, the stuff that's coming out right now doesn't end like that. There's someone killing someone, someone's cheating, someone's abusing someone, someone's being violent. There's generally some kind of nasty thing in there that only really
some darkness. Absolutely,
that brings all of those things inside your life. That's what it does. We're very impressionable as humans. So I'm very excited about getting to the point now where we can actually really change the world with some of the stuff we're doing. So it might sound corny to hear me say that, but really, like, you know, there are certain films in your life you can say, I remember those for the rest of my life. Culture shifting movies, and I'll forever remember that. You know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like a movie that guy just took day off school and he went wild, and then I'm sure I was out of school several times after seeing that. So you know, it was different type of that worked out for me, but I'm not saying that was a positive result, but they inspire you, that you really pick up culture from seeing these movies. So I'm excited about changing the world in a positive way. I'm excited about challenging all of the darkness that's out there with good, in just stuff that's helping. You know, nobody can say this is bad stuff. Everybody gets something from it. So change the world, make it better.
Very cool. We'll link everything, link the documentaries, link your socials too. I think the overall message is you should build something for the future, for yourself, to better your future, and everyone can. You know, we're both entrepreneurs here. You can start from your bedroom, build anything at any age, young or old. There's no limit. You know, it's very corny and cheesy, but the only limit is really what you place in front of you. You could, especially now that it's so much easier now to start a side business or something that you have a vision for. I'm very happy that we talked about your, you know, entrepreneurship in media, which is different, right? People think about buying and selling, but this is like you're creating something. Of course, you're buying and selling ideas and concepts and shows, but you know, it's a different take to entrepreneurship, and I think that's it's something that people can understand, that yes, I can be creative and actually make money and make a business out of it. So thank you for being on the show, Jonny. I definitely want to have you back to talk more, because we talk for hours about this, the ups and downs and the backup again of being an entrepreneur. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you everyone for joining us, and please do check out everything that Jonny's doing. We'll link everything, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks so much, Matthias. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you got value from this episode, you're going to love what's coming next. So subscribe now. We drop new episodes and videos several times a week, featuring power players, market movers, and insiders from the financial world. And if you want access to deals and insights we only share privately, hit the links in the description, and we'll see you on the next show.